Ifes o hui o miras orth, canal Kerno.
Well, welcome to this week's Cornwall channel. And they say nothing goes on here in quaint Cornwall. Well, how wrong they are, because we are here at a secret location where behind me the BBC crew are in there filming Homes Under the Hammer. And Martin will be here any moment soon. And yeah, it's all kicking off in Cornwall today. It's all kicking off. Anyway, coming up in this week's show, we're very lucky that Robert Gray and Ian Ramsdale went up to London to film a Cornish art exhibition at Temple Place. That's coming up in the programme. We then have a fantastic feature following up from last week's coverage of Communications Week. We went to Lemon Key in Truro to find out what was going on down there with Total Communication. We're really excited to bring you an exclusive this week with Sir Ben Ainsley. Yes, Sir Ben Ainsley is on the show this week. A big thanks to Mark Huckle at Piran Films for bringing us this report. It was very last minute. We met up on the 8:30 Thursday morning to exchange the footage. That's coming up, a 15-minute special with Sir Ben Ainsley. We then bring you the second part of an 8-part series from Cornwall MasterChef, this week filmed at the Eden Project. We then have our first documentary from Farmhouse Studios. Mr. Jamie Reid brings us a fantastic documentary on the Cape to Cape tour, which raised over £500,000 for charity. Now, of course, as always, we'd love to hear from you. Get in contact with us here on the Cornwall channel, at our website, of course, Facebook, Twitter, and coming up next week, we have the Rome or Bust 1 hour special with a Centaur Stalk round table. So for anything newsworthy also in Cornwall, go to www.thisiscornwall.co.uk. Our friends there are doing news 24/7 all about Cornwall. Enjoy this week's show.
Today the Cornwall channel have sent me up country to the City of London, where there is an exhibition of Cornish art. It is not just the art, but also the iconic building that has rich links to Cornwall. With the Moray Minor on a metre, this could be an expensive day out, but no expense has been spared with the building we are about to see. 2 Temple Place is a wonderful 19th century building originally designed as a lavish office building for William Wardorf Astor, a hugely wealthy American from the Astor family dynasty.
William Astor was at the time arguably one of the richest, possibly the richest man in the world, and he decided that no expense should be spared on his office space. So, as you can imagine, it's pretty beautiful.
John Loughborough Pearson was commissioned to design 2 Temple Place in 1892. Pearson, known for his Gothic revival churches, also designed Truro Cathedral. The building is operated by the Bulldog Trust, a charitable organisation who hire it out for various functions, and it is now open to the public as a gallery. If one talks about art in Cornwall, the names Alfred Wallace, the naive artist, and the modernists Barbara Hepworth and Ben Nicholson spring to mind. This exhibition, Amongst Heroes, brings together artists from 2 colonies in Newlyn and St Ives from an earlier time, dating between 1880 and 1920. And some of the works haven't been seen in public for over a century. Let's go and have a look. For curators of those designing shows at the ornate and highly decorated space at 2 Temple Place is a huge challenge that calls for imagination and ingenuity.
The shows that we put on are opportunities to give up-and-coming curators a chance to have a solo show, or possibly with our next one, we're not going to have one particular curator, we're going to be working with a range of young curators.
The curator of Amongst Heroes is Rue Gunsey.
You know, it is wholly her own work, but she had, we hope, a really exciting and valuable experience.
Rue has certainly risen to the challenge. She has drawn on works from the collections of the Royal Cornwall Museum, who is partner of this project, and many other lenders in Cornwall and elsewhere to create a fresh look at an underappreciated period of art history.
We really hope that every exhibition we have not just gives the public a chance to see the interior of this lovely building, but also is a way of us working with museums and galleries around the country to share ideas and experience and help, give them some chance to raise their national profile.
In the late Victorian and early Edwardian time, Cornwall was still very much an undiscovered part of Britain, untouched by industry and not romanticised by the likes of Daphne du Maurier as a place to holiday. Artists felt they should paint in the open air, pure naturalist. Notable artists of the period were Stanhope Forbes and the famous Henry Scott Tuke's portraits of young seafarers. The artists seem more interested in the maritime craft and objects and paraphernalia concerning boats, harbours, blacksmiths and even clay pits and quarrying that gave rich subject matter. In this exhibition there are many objects of the period that brings to life Cornwall of the late 19th century, social and historical feel.
This winding frame reminds me of the hand-lining fish frame that the harbour master, Morley Billings, made for me when I was a child in the Roseland fishing village of Port Scatho.
When we were discussing exhibition proposals and she was talking about this was one of the things we were most excited about because it makes the show that bit different. And from our perspective, we have a huge education outreach programme which we also share with and we hope that all of the resources that we produce will then go on to be used by our lender institutions. So, for example, the Royal Cornwall Museum.
Most of the artists of this period were trying to paint images of naturalism, and you can see in this painting it's of an oyster dredger, and there we have a windlass and the oyster dredger itself, and here we actually have an oyster dredger boat and the windlass. What is so fantastic about this exhibition is that you get both the actual painting and the objects.
There's something rather wonderful that images of this moment in Cornwall of such poverty now sit in such opulent surroundings of the same period. One of the most magnificent parts of this building is the full-height, top-lit stairwell, with oak panelling and mahogany staircase. Also solid ebony columns for the first floor arcade. The floor is inlaid with marble, jasper, porphyry and onyx, laid in geometrical patterns. The large figures that crown the newel posts on the staircase are by Thomas Nicholls. They represent characters from the Three Musketeers. The frieze below the glass ceiling depicts 82 Shakespearean characters, under which there are several portraits by Henry Tuke. The curator says the exhibition's artwork isn't sentimental or ideologically loaded painting. Their aim is to show not tragic victims of poverty and oppression, but the plain facts of honest toil. However, the eminent art critic Brian Sewell says there is scant evidence that the painters of Newlyn and St Ives ever felt any social or political sympathy for their subjects, though Henry Tuke's paintings of local adolescent boys seem often to express emotional longing. And now we arrive into the great room, Astor's office, and where he held court. Entering this room, you are struck by the sense of attention to detail that runs throughout the building. In here it is more than anywhere else. The walls, carved doors, elegant roof structure, and the giant stained glass windows. The east-facing one depicts the sunrise, the west the sunset. It leaves one with a lingering feeling of power and wealth, and it is certainly what I would have thought Astor would have wanted.
The Great Hall, I mean, what an office.
Yeah, he had a desk in the middle of the Great Hall, and he could sit either facing the river with the view over through his 5 beautiful windows, mullioned windows, or he could sit facing the door. The room at the time was known as his mediation room, which is quite always think is quite amusing, because you would just walk in there and say, take whatever you want, I don't mind. It's so intimidating with it's got a 35-foot ceiling and the Spanish mahogany hammer beam. You're not going to negotiate with somebody if they're sitting at a desk in the middle of that room.
Great Hall frieze, again carved by Nathaniel Hitch, show characters from literature and history. The door to the Great Hall, inset with silver gilt panels by George Frampton, depicts characters from King Arthur.
He was very, very keen to be accepted into the highest levels of British society when he came over here, and building this house and the castles that he bought were all part of his effort to secure his place in British society. And he gave huge amounts of money to charity, and finally, eventually, sadly only a year before he died, he got given a title and was made a Viscount.
Two Temple Place is certainly a building where one can get lost for hours and hours. So, back to the Moray Minor on the meter. Oh no, the meter!
Hi, I'm at the Eshcol Nursing Home, just above the wonderful fishing village of Porthscatho, in one of the loveliest parts of Cornwall. Having been through quite a difficult year with my father, who had Alzheimer's, and for the last year of his life he was looked after in a nursing home like this. I was really impressed and humbled by the selfless work people in these nursing homes do to take care of people like my father. It's an extraordinary thing to have that ability.
When people come to Eshcol, they think they have no other options, and this isn't the case. We aim to take away the worries of the resident and provide the service that's right for them.
I just wish that he'd had the view that there is from this establishment, a wonderful view of the sea. And it was a great comfort for me, I have to say, in a very tricky time, to know that he was being so well looked after.
Looking for a home maintenance company you can trust? Ocean now provides a whole range of expert maintenance services, from heating, electrics and plumbing, to refurbishment and roofing. And thanks to our 24-hour emergency call-out service, you're always covered. Ocean, we do more than you think. To find out more, call St Austell 874488 today, or visit www.morethanyouthink.co.uk.
Newell's Travel, Cornwall's premier independent travel agent, are now offering Newquay to Bulgaria from just £336 per person. Departing on the 24th of May 2014 during half-term and the 12th of September 2014. You'll be staying at the Sunny Beach Resort for 7 nights with B&B board. For full details, please visit us at newellstravel.co.uk or by calling 0800 008 7411.
Does your property suffer from mould and condensation? Southwest Ventilation offer a loft-mounted system supplied and fitted for just £499. With a 5-year guarantee and running costs of around £0.01 a day, it's the ultimate cure for mould problems. For a free site survey, call today on 0800 5999 269 or visit southwestventilation.co.uk. That's southwestventilation.co.uk.
If you live in Cornwall or you're just simply visiting, then you must take time to sample the mouth-watering Nepalese and Indian cuisine being offered by the Gurkha restaurant in St Austell. Enjoy the flavours and delights of their cooking in a relaxed and friendly restaurant. View their menu online at nepalesegurkha.co.uk or book a table on 01726 673 90.
Kingsley Village, so easy to get to with plenty of free parking. Come and browse all we have to offer under one roof. Why not feast your eyes over our delicious array of Cornish produce from our extensive food hall through to our cafe and Cornish crafts. Come and see why Kingsley Village is Cornwall's #1 choice for a Sunday carvery. Served from 11:30 a.m. You will not be able to resist our mouth-watering selection of meats and vegetables. Kingsley Village at Fradden, the unique shopping venue in the centre of Cornwall.
I'd like to ask Steve Diamond, Chair of the Learning Disability Partnership Board, and Mark Tangy, Keyword Signing Co-Trainer, to open the charter.
Okay, cut your way through.
Celia, your thoughts on what's just happened?
Well, it moved me to tears to see, as I stood at the front and looked out on a sea of faces of people signing and enjoying communicating. It was just breathtaking. We expected about 100 people, but I think we probably got near 150 today. So it has been the culmination of a fabulous week, and that everybody has just worked so hard to make such a lovely event. And the rain stopped.
Exactly. And has it been a successful week for you so far?
It's been a really successful week. We had almost 100 people at the Cats Day on Tuesday. The feedback from that was absolutely fabulous. We trained over 36 trainers on Wednesday in the 2 groups. Again, really nice groups, really positive feedback from that training. Lots of ideas about what people are going to do. And then we have today. And what can you say, really?
Well, I think it was a feeling of happiness. I think people had an opportunity to enjoy doing what they're doing, and that's communicating in a meaningful way, using signing as a vehicle to practice to communicate, and in an enjoyable manner.
Well, I've just had a great time, and what a great way to launch the Communication Charter in Cornwall. A great example of partnership, great example of people working together, some brilliant work from some key people, Celia Todd, Darren Williams, who've done amazing work to put this together. But most of all, it was just great to see people with learning disabilities, people who work with people with learning disabilities, and some of the public getting involved. And hopefully this is a kind of way to get our message across that communication is really important. So it was great to be here.
If people want to go and have a drink, if they go to the pub there, or to the cafe there, people will help you. They will do some signing, and they've got some pictures to help you. So go and have a drink, and thank you all once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Truro School's new sports centre was officially opened today by a former pupil, the most successful sailor in Olympic history, Sir Ben Ainslie. The first port of call was at the school's Burrell Theatre, where Sir Ben took questions from 146 of the school's 200 elite sports students.
What are your new impressions of your old school?
Well,
in the 10 minutes you've spent here.
It's in some ways things haven't changed, you know, in terms of the infrastructure with the old building, but of course they have here with this theatre and now with the new sports centre. And it was really interesting, you know, catching up with some of my old teachers and certainly my old games master. And we were talking about, God, 25 years ago, I'm showing my age, when I was studying here, and we really didn't have that many high performers in terms of sports nationally or even at a county level. And really to hear the results, the performances from everyone here and all the students here, it's very impressive to hear the results that you've been getting, the achievements. Certainly it sounds like we've got some pretty good fencers in this school amongst other sports, and that is really great to hear. And I think that's I think sport nationally has come a huge way in the last 20 odd years, and certainly when you look at our performance at an Olympic level, in 1996 when I started sailing and being involved with the Olympics, we had 1 gold medal, and then of course in the last Olympics last year, I don't know exactly how many we had, but we had our best performance ever as a nation. So I think that tallies in with what you're achieving here at the school. So of course things have changed in terms of the infrastructure, the look of the school, but also in your achievements, and that's certainly something to applaud, so well done.
Thanks very much, Ben. And just casting your mind back to when you were at school, standard question everyone wants to know, what was your favourite subject at Truro School?
Well, it wasn't physics, that's for sure. I think history was my favourite subject at school, and I wasn't, again we were laughing about this, I wasn't a fantastic natural sportsman. I enjoyed playing hockey and cricket, and so I love being out, you know, with the sports. Rather than being in the classroom, I have to admit. I'm sure most of you would probably admit to that as well, but you know, the academic side of it is really important, and history was the subject which I really loved.
Why do you think you're so driven to succeed?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons why. You know, when you look at people who have succeeded and achieved things, yeah, part of it comes from having a desire to do that. Part of it comes from, like I said earlier, having the right support and being smart about it. But you're right, ultimately you do have to have that desire. That's really what I think sets the achievers out from the non-achievers, is making that extra effort. There are a lot of talented people in this world in anything that you do in life, and the difference is what you're willing to apply to that, how much effort you're willing to put in to make those goals a reality. Back to your point, I think part of it is actually from my school days. Like I said, when I was at school, I wasn't particularly talented in many sports. I wasn't a naturally gifted sportsman, if you like. But in sailing, I found something that I was really good at and I loved. And that was my way to sort of express myself and try and achieve something with my life, and I was very determined to try and do that.
Charlie Armstrong, one of our sports scholars on the front here. Charlie, what's your question for Sir Ben?
What are your top tips for school athletes to become world champions?
It's about having a dream, but also it's about you know, enjoying your sport, what you're doing, and I think you have to be very careful at a young age not to put too much pressure on yourself. Certainly I remember when I was growing up, a lot of the kids that I sailed with were under a lot of pressure to try and do well, and if they didn't meet those expectations, then they would get frustrated or they would want to do something else. And really, if you enjoy a sport, then that's the most important thing. And as you'll find, as young people develop, they develop at different stages. So just because your best friend happens to be so much better at cricket or hockey or fencing or whatever it is than you are at this age, doesn't necessarily mean that that will be the case in 2 or 3 years' time. And from my own experience, that is something which you just have to accept, that you're developing a lot. Ultimately you can't predict the future. All you know is that you enjoy a sport, you would love to be world class at that sport, and if you train and you get as much advice as you can and you enjoy it, then that's the most important thing. So don't put too much pressure on yourself at this stage, because so much, as you develop, so much is going to happen. You obviously have to make decisions about your education, you know, A-levels, university. I mean, these are huge, you know, lifestyle decisions, career decisions, as well as your sport. And so just enjoy it, work at it, but try not to put too much pressure on yourself.
Thank you very much. Charlie Purcell's the National Intermediate squad in the RS Fever class. Charlie, what's your question?
Do you ever sail just for pleasure?
Yeah, I do. Funnily enough, unlike a lot of sportsmen, I actually enjoy the sport professional sportsmen, I should say. I actually enjoy the sport that I do. And I've always, as I said, I've always loved sailing. I actually have a sailing boat myself, not a racing boat, a cruising boat, which my dad helps to look after, and that's great for us to keep that relationship going. My dad's in his 70s now, and it's fantastic to have something like that we can share and work on together. I hardly ever get to go on it, but he uses it a lot, and we enjoy that, and it's a great thing to keep our family together.
Thank you. Laura Vegan joined us this year from Germany. She's a German international sailor. Laura Vegan, what's your question?
What is your favourite moment in the Olympics?
Well, the favourite moment in the Olympics was undoubtedly this last Olympics, and for the first time in sailing, we were really in Olympic sailing, we had the final races under this headland called the Nove Headland in Weymouth in Portland, which turned out to be a fantastic spectator vantage point. So we had, I think it was 20,000, 30,000 people on this headland. And so to be able to race in front of a home crowd like that, and ultimately to win a gold medal on home waters and share it with those people, those supporters, was the most amazing experience, and it'd be hard to ever top that in terms of the Olympics.
Now, we've heard from the students. Let's get a question from a parent who pays all those fees for the kids to come to this school. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Holmes, what's her question? Mrs. Holmes, what's your question for Sir Ben?
Have you considered setting up a sailing academy in Cornwall?
Yeah, I mean, that's right, and that's something which would love to do. One thing we have done in the aftermath of the tragedy with Andrew Simpson is we set up a foundation in his name, the Andrew Simpson Sailing Foundation, and the goal with that foundation is to raise money to help underprivileged kids get into the sport, and hopefully to create a life for them in sailing, not necessarily as a sailor if they don't choose to go down that path, but perhaps as a sail maker or a boat builder or a yacht designer, and through our contacts in the sport create apprenticeships so we can get these kids into sailing at a young age, and if they like the sport, they can then hopefully make a life and a career in sailing in time. Personally, I would love to do something in Cornwall because this is where I grew up. I have such fond memories of growing up here and learning to sail here.
Anyone in the audience at all want to ask Sir Ben a question? Yeah, you're sitting in the middle. You're sitting in the wrong place, young man. Let's just stand up, little gentleman. Let's get to the middle here. Just tell us your name, your sport, and ask your question. Wait for the microphone.
Ollie Williams, I play rugby. And I was wondering, do you find that your fame ever gets in the way of your sailing?
I haven't found that to be an issue yet. No, I think personally I'm not interested in that side of being a sportsman. You know, frankly I'm very grateful that I'm not a professional footballer or golfer or one of these sports where they're extremely high profile. Whenever they go out to the supermarket or a restaurant, you know, these people are just getting hammered the whole time, and it's very hard to have a private life. And I suppose I'm reasonably high profile. I suffer from that a little bit. I had a few issues with, I was in New York with my girlfriend last week, and unbelievably enough, I ended up with a few issues over there, which is surprising. But that's not something which really interests me. I'm much more into sport and trying to achieve things as a sportsman, and hopefully, as we talked about in the future, help the likes of yourself, the future generations, to be successful as well.
Ben or Sir Ben?
Ben, yeah.
Cornish pasty or Cornish cream tea?
Pasty.
Cornwall or England? Not a trick question. We've got Cornish people here.
Cornwall.
Optimist or laser?
Optimist.
Optimist or pessimist?
Optimist.
I expect nothing less of Sir Ben Ainsley, or Ben to his friends. Thank you very much, Ben Ainsley, everybody. Later, Ben was given a tour of the £4 million centre by another Olympian, our headmaster and Oxford rowing blue, Andrew Gordon-Brown.
Great gym.
Sir Ben is at the back of the room with the headmaster. Please stand and applaud Sir Ben Ainsley.
I was offered the job as the 10th headmaster of Truro School in December 2011, and the building of the Sir Ben Ainsley Sports Centre started in July of 2012. So the final decision to, when I was offered my job, the final decision to build a sports centre or not hadn't yet been taken, and it was only decided at an extraordinary meeting of the governors in May of 2012 that the green light was given. And so, in truth, I didn't have much to do with the decision to build a new Sir Ben Ainsley Sports Centre, other than to add my enthusiastic support for what I knew would be a transformational facility for Truro School. And we can all look back now and say, it was a no-brainer. But I think that the governors should be applauded for taking the decision to build the Sir Ben Ainsley Centre. It was a bold statement about where we're headed as a school, and it was a decision taken at the time when Cornwall, and indeed the rest of the UK, were very much in the sort of economic doldrums. And so I guess my first thanks go to the governors for taking the bold decision to undertake this fantastic project. Together with the school's existing impressive facilities, it's going to give us a superb environment and to grow our sport under the banner of participating, performing and leading.
It's now my pleasure to ask Sir Ben to unveil the plaque and formally open the centre.
Well, it brings back a lot of fond memories of growing up here, going to school here. The school's obviously changed an awful lot in the last 25 years, and it was a great school back then, and it's an even better school now, so it's an honour to be here. And CDT was the only subject I actually got an A grade in. I shouldn't really admit to that, should I? But, anyway, it was a funny story because Mr. Keem, who was working with Mr. Toole back in those days, phoned up my dad. He said, "Look, I'm sorry, it's just not. His son's just no good at this subject. It's not going to happen."
He was good at that.
And you managed to turn me around. So thanks for that.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. My claim to fame.
The only A grade I ever got.
Absolutely delighted how it went today. Right from sort of conceiving months ago that we could ask Sir Ben to have the sports centre named after him, to then the planning for today. It's been done to the finest detail, and I'm absolutely thrilled. He had such a powerful message for the pupils, such an inspirational guy, such a humble guy. And actually to have the sports centre named after him now for Truro School, for Cornwall and beyond is as a new headmaster is an absolute dream, really. So very pleased.
Kingsley Entertainment, the Southwest premier dealer for Bose, Sonos and Sony. The concept of our store is unique. You can see, touch and hear everything from the biggest brands in the world of home entertainment. We're conveniently located just off the A30 at Kingsley Village, Fradden. Why not pop in and speak to one of our highly trained staff? Kingsley Entertainment, the premier dealer for Bose, Sonos and Sony in the Southwest.
Looking for a home maintenance company you can trust? Ocean now provides a whole range of expert maintenance services, from heating, electrics and plumbing, to refurbishment and roofing. And thanks to our 24-hour emergency call-out service, you're always covered. Ocean, we do more than you think. To find out more, call Centaur Store 874488 today, or visit www.morethanyoutthink.co.uk.
If you live in Cornwall or you're just simply visiting, then you must take time to sample the mouth-watering Nepalese and Indian cuisine being offered by the Gurkha restaurant in St. Austell. Enjoy the flavours and delights of their cooking in a relaxed and friendly restaurant. View their menu online at nepalesegurkha.co.uk or book a table on 01726 673 90.
Good afternoon, welcome to Cornwall MasterChef. My name's Ben Stevens, Delicate Trade. We put together a competition for sous chefs really to start showing their talents. So what you're going to see over the next 7 weeks is a set of competitions in different areas where different chefs from different restaurants in Cornwall get to show off their talents. Lee, right, so we're an hour and 3/4 in. How are you feeling?
Yeah, all right. Shaky start, but...
Okay, tell me about some of the challenges you've had today.
The chocolate acetate sheet I had to keep my parfait in, I piped it in and they split, and the backup was broken as well.
So you're having to wing it a little bit? Have you got a backup plan?
I've got a backup plan. I found some moulds, so hopefully they set in time, so a bit bigger. So I've got them in the moulds, and I'll just have to play around with the plate.
Fantastic. Well, as we all know, when it comes to service, things don't always go according to plan.
Yeah, so I'll have to come through and take it from my own hand.
That's cool. You still confident in all your dishes?
Yeah, I'm doing well for time, to be honest.
You look very organised, which is great to see.
I'm a list person, I need my list.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Just from watching from the outside, you guys, they've got very different skill sets, they've got different competencies at different levels, haven't they? So the menus themselves, I think, will look as though they're very, very unique and different to each person.
Each menu has got its own personality, and that is important from a chef point of view. But also the way they're cooking, each chef, you can tell they've really thought about how they're cooking, what they're going to produce.
Awesome. So Claire, you've been judging now for about 2 hours. What sort of things are you seeing coming out of the food today?
What am I seeing coming out of the food? Most amazing flavours.
What have you tasted that's really stood out so far?
Do you know what? I'm staying back from tasting. I don't want to taste at the moment. A, because you almost like they're in their zone and I don't want to disturb them because that's what they do. I have to ask questions and observe. But I'm waiting till the end product. Because,
so you're saving yourself?
I'm saving myself. Because flavours develop, to leave things, they become rich, they become sweeter. They might not be finished yet. So I'm waiting back, I'm holding back. I like the finished product.
So you're letting the chefs kind of, rather than pick in the middle, you're going to let them demonstrate the final product?
I think that's more of a chef's role of a judge, is to go in and go, oh, let's try this, let's try that. I want the final.
It started with a German idea when I was over in France in 2003, lying on a beach, trying to think of a different way for classic car drivers to travel the length of the country, because individuals have been undertaking the journey between Land's End and John O'Groats, including myself, for years and years. But no one had linked together the only two capes in the British mainland, which is Cape Cornwall and Cape Wrath. So that's the way it all began. Well, it commenced with my wife, who, as it happens, has since died of cancer. But Tricia was saying to me that to undertake this sort of tour, and planning of tour, is going to take a lot of work, which it does. And I decided that if I was putting in all that amount of work, it would be nice to raise money for a charitable cause. Now, through a previous contact, I knew Lady Mary Holborough in Cornwall, And she was and still is, the patron for Macmillan Cancer support, or relief as it was then. And so I thought, right, that's a tremendous cause. So many people are affected with cancer that it would be nice to raise money for that purpose. It's going to be an event which is perhaps just a little bit easier than the 9th Classic Car Tour, which was undertaken between Cape Wrath and Cape Cornwall last year. The last event was made very tough for them. And I decided that if we can go from Cabo de Roca, which is the most westerly tip of mainland Europe, back to Cape Cornwall, but make it a competitive element to the event in the mornings, and then a more relaxing tour with the scenic drives in the afternoons.
Sort of starting off with a blank sheet of paper, Dennis gets a rough idea of where we want to go, and off we go and we start the route planning. And you could call it a real adventure, really, because we never know where we're going to go. We could go down some lanes, some tracks, on roads that won't go through. We've got to turn around and trace our steps and pick up the right road and make sure we get the right route for the participants.
I think it'll be reasonably tough with some of the various hill climbs, both in the Picos de Europa mountains in northern Spain and the Serras in Portugal. The navigation will not be easy and is not meant to be. And then, of course, there are some tests when we get back to Cornwall at the Royal Cornwall Showground. Because the event is, if you like, split into two. There is a competitive element for those with a competitive spirit, those with trials and rally drivers and navigators. And there's the touring element. So it's a unique event, and it attracts considerable variety of cars. This year we have quite a number of Jaguars, and one of the previous sponsors has put up a special trophy for the best performance by a Jaguar. But we have a beautiful 356 Porsche, of which I've rallied in myself many years ago. And we have Triumph TRs, Austin Healey, and in the saloons, a Ford Capri, a BMW. There's a beautiful variety of old classic cars. And for them, bear in mind, 50 years old, there's a 1935 Bentley, for instance. It's going to be quite a tough adventure. Really, you're all making history on this event because, as you would already be aware, I think, we will exceed over £500,000, which I could sort of unofficially confirm already, but I won't. But we have got a banner already prepared saying over £500,000 for when you get down to Cape Cornwall. Right, just to remind you that again, officially this is a tour, it is not a rally. There is no timing on this event from the point of view of reaching time controls. Those of you who've been before will be aware, but I'll just emphasise you should approach and depart controls from the right direction. Generally, that should be quite simple anyway.
Incredible. I think I've kind of run out of words of how to describe the event, really. This is my second Cape to Cape. So I met Dennis last year, and I've got to know the event and lots of the people that participate in it really well. And it's just phenomenal. What else can you say to a person that's raised over £500,000 to help people affected by cancer? And what an incredible event. 40 cars, people that are passionate about cars and passionate about working with charity, all having a really good time together and raising such an amazing amount of money.
Absolutely outstanding. I mean, I'm proud to be a part of it. Dennis has done such a wonderful job in getting all this together and keeping it going for 10 years. And to get to the 500,000, I hope everybody is absolutely chuffed.
I learnt about Cape to Cape about 5 years ago through friends who'd already participated and taken part in it, and realised what a great cause it was. That to be able to do something, having fun, raising money for such a good charity. My father died of cancer not long after he retired, 21 years ago, and and my mother had a terrific amount of support from the Macmillan Cancer Support Service, and my father-in-law also recently going through radiotherapy as currently being supported, and my mother-in-law with Macmillan, and they do such an amazing job that it's just very, very good to be able to have fun, raising money, raising awareness with friends, family and the wider community for such a good cause.
Thank you for watching this week's Cornwall channel. We would love to hear from you, your thoughts and ideas for future Cornish programmes. This dedicated weekly channel for Cornwall on Sky and Freesat aims to deliver information and local programmes. If you have any news you think we should cover, then please get in touch using our website at cornwallchannel.co.uk or via our Facebook and Twitter pages. See you next week.